What's up, Amazon sellers? If you're looking to scale your Amazon business, boy, have I got an interview for you today. I'm interviewing Jimmy Smith, who has developed the Replens model of finding products for arbitrage, and he has taken it to nearly $200,000 per month at its peak. And today I'm interviewing him, learning about it. He's even going to be sharing us some screen shares of exactly what he looks for. Stay tuned. So Jimmy, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me and taking time out of your busy day. If anyone doesn't know who you are, be happy to share a little bit about yourself and obviously your journey so far.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. Thank you so much for having me on this channel. I'm super pumped to be talking to you. A little bit of background on me. I started December 2015 doing regular arbitrage online and mainly in-store retail arbitrage of shopping for clearance products, doing all the typical stuff that you see out there that still works today. And really over the next year and a half, I continued to build that model, and it was just kind of a side hustle that I did in addition to my job, and we had grown it to about $10,000-$15,000 per month until I kind of stumbled on some Replens content that was basically how do you buy full price products and sell them on Amazon at a good markup. From the point that I learned about that method till I was able to quit my job, it was about 5 or 6 months later, went from essentially $0 in Replens to over $30,000, around $30,000 per month in Replens within that period. And then over the next 6 to 8 months from there, scaled it from $30,000 a month to just over $70,000, $80,000, and then eventually over $100,000 about a year after I quit my job. And yeah, the rest is history. It started as a presentation on how do you grow and scale this model to becoming a course and a book and all of this stuff over the last 4 years, which has been pretty crazy.
When you talk about the Replens model, you're telling me I'm buying products at full price. If anyone listening right now, they're going to say that's impossible. The whole point behind arbitrage is you're buying it for cheap, half price, for example, and doing it like, how does that work? Can you explain it more?
Yeah. So the point of the Replens model is, it means it's a short term for replenish, right? So the point of the business is to replenish your inventory. And while you can do some of that with clearance products that are cheap and, maybe being liquidated, it becomes a grind after a while. It becomes very difficult to keep up that model at scale and to outsource it to other people so you can grow. And so it might take a little bit longer to find some products that are full price, but it becomes a foundation for your business that you can start to rely on more in terms of the products that you'll be able to buy over and over again. And so for me, it's about looking for things that maybe are more local products or niche products. Sometimes you get lucky and you'll find a big name product that is also replenishable, but the local niche regional type of products in your local area or even online in different stores that most people wouldn't think of, that's where you're going to be searching for these things so that you can buy them at full price and sell them for 2 to 3 times, typically 2.5 to 3 times on the Amazon marketplace. If you buy something for $5, selling it for around $14 to $17 at the time. In addition to those local products, you may be looking at other bundles or multi-packs that have been put together without any kind of unique item. And so it might be maybe, I'll use this example, Altoids Peppermint plus an Altoids Wintergreen, and that is a bundle that somebody else had put together, and you can buy them individually, and then together they're sold at a much higher price because people pay for the convenience. So those are just a few of the examples that I usually discuss with the Replens model.
So when you're talking about this, they're generally from the more local or more niche stores. They're not from like the big Walmarts, for example. Like I'm sure you could find them, but like you're more likely to find them in the local ones. And the other one is the fact that are you doing something with them, like adding value where you talk about bundling or maybe kind of looking at other areas? Is that like the kind of, I always think about like you're adding value, if that makes sense. And the value is like, is that right? Adding value could be bundling, for example.
Well, there are people that will do that, almost their own unique item bundling strategy. But for the base Replens model, it's strictly arbitrage. So you aren't adding any value. You're finding other listings that have been already created, and you are checking the Keepa charts and using Keepa.com graphs to make sure that you can sell them just like a traditional arbitrage product. And so while we had mentioned the local and niche stores, that is absolutely true. That's where I recommend most people go to. However, I know plenty of people, and in my own business, Walmart and Target and these massive stores are also a great place to find Replens. The issue is that you're going to have more competition, right? You're going to have other people that are going to jump on those listings. So they may not stay as replenishable as some of the other local stores. You might replenish them for a month or two, and then the price will start to drop, or sellers will start to find them if you're shopping from national stores. But But traditionally, you're going to be finding products. You're not adding any value to them. You're just finding them and listing them on Amazon. Many people have scaled the business to tens of thousands or over $100,000 per month using the system, and it's been consistent.
Say, for example, in my business, when we talk about a replenishable, now I talk about a replenishable, which is like different to what you're saying. My definition of replenishable within my business is any ASIN which we've reordered more than once in a 12-month period, because we understand that some products come back in and out of stock, for example. But I'm guessing when I think about the way we think about replenishables is, say, for example, if you were to buy a product from Walmart, you were to then full price and you were to start shipping it in, then every leads list in the world gets on it, but then all of a sudden it might like crash too much. And then I'm guessing a lot of them will probably come back into like profitability again, because people are really bad at just rechecking the same products over and over again. Like they're like, oh, it's profitable again. It wasn't. Like, would you find that a lot? Is that a situation?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's I think one of the issues for Replens sellers is that they'll forget to go back and check old listings that they've sold on before. And that's an excellent way of being able to continue to keep your base of replenishable products pretty high, because you just go back and check them, have a virtual assistant, somebody check them for you at regular intervals. You know, there's different, either if you use spreadsheets or software, there's different ways to make that an easier process. But ultimately, that is a huge, huge piece for staying consistent with it.
And before we jump on, because I appreciate today, obviously you said you're going to share some screen share, and I just want to say thank you for that. Like, I'd love to see how you analyze it, what you look at, like keeper considerations. Can we do some like pros and cons of like the model? Like, tell me a bit about like the positive side.
Yeah, so the pros of the Replens model, to me, it is the lowest hanging fruit opportunity out there, right? You can get into arbitrage, you can get into flipping products, but if you are looking to learn Amazon and be able to grow it and scale it, the easiest or simplest one that still requires hard work is typically going to be replenishable products, because you can go out there, you can find things that have a decent return on your investment, and you can scale the business one at a time and fairly quickly, depending on how much work that you're able to put into it and the products that you're finding. So to me, if I was just relearning how to start selling on Amazon, Replens is the place that I would continue to go to. And if that ever became the case where it wasn't, I most likely would stop talking about it and stop training it, because it is just such a low barrier to entry for most people to learn the Amazon marketplace and how things work. So that's one pro, is that just about anybody can get into it. Another pro is you really can scale it to 7-figure business. I've done it. Multiple people that have gone through the things that I do have also done it. And even people that learn it from YouTube and other places have been able to grow and scale their Replens businesses to a pretty high level. And then another pro to me is that, in my own opinion and my own experience, that arbitrage and Replens sellers many times become the best wholesale sellers as well as the best private label sellers. I'm saying that because the wholesale accounts that you can get after learning about regional and local products, you can approach those brands and they're going to be much more likely to want to work with you for wholesale accounts, because they're smaller, because not everyone is approaching that brand like they might be for some of the bigger ones. And then for private label, you're learning about listings that are typically underserved, that aren't high quality listings. They're usually going to not have A+ content. The titles aren't going to be the best. The pictures aren't going to be the best. And so you're learning some of those gaps in the marketplace that, even with a poor quality listing, are still selling pretty well for you. And if you're able to go out and manufacture products that could compete, you actually have a high likelihood of competing well against those products if you're dealing with the not high name brands that you're selling, right? So, if you're selling Nike products as a replen, well, that's going to be problematic. You can't really compete. But if you're selling some odd salad dressing or barbecue sauce, you can go and private label some of those things and do fairly well, because you know that there's a gap in the market for that.
Interesting. So before we jump onto the cons, can I just kind of come back to some of the points you made? You said it was like, if it wasn't working, you wouldn't still be teaching. If it wasn't, anyone's going to say, my God, you've been teaching it for God knows how long. Is it not saturated? Because Amazon's saturated, obviously. So like, what would you say to that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the Replens course that I've taught had just hit 4 years on July 2nd. So it's been 4 years. It's still succeeding and getting success stories. There's been over 1,000 documented success stories that have come through it, and we get more each and every day. And those are documented. I've never asked for them. People just post them. That doesn't mean everyone's successful. I'm sure that there's a pretty high failure rate as well, that people go through and they realize, one, they may not like it, or two, it doesn't click for them. But it has consistently been successful throughout the years. And so even though Amazon as a selling platform may be growing in sellers, you're getting more products that outweigh the amount of sellers that come into the platform. And to me, that is key because people are able to continue to find replenishable products. That is not saying though that it hasn't changed from 4 years ago. There is some more competition. It just requires you to roll with the punches, so to speak, and find more products or to go back and check those old products and resell them. There's some caveats there, but ultimately I would say that Amazon as a whole, yes, is getting more competitive, but also getting more exposure and getting more listings on the platform as well.
You talked about it, the model. What kind of like ROIs do people typically see within it? Is it like, because it's replenishable and it's selling at full price, are we talking like single digit ROIs, like 5 or 7%, like or higher? And I'm not saying that's true. I'm just putting out random numbers.
Well, I will speak for what I recommend sellers start at as a minimum ROI, which is 40% minimums. Okay. 40% minimums, and then the profitability per item, that's up to you. I kind of like a sliding scale. So if my profit is $2, I want to be making over 100% ROI on those products, right? So as the profit gets lower, the ROI has to go up with it. And as the profit goes up, maybe if you're looking at a $30 profit, well, I'm fine with a 30% ROI at that point, right? I'll scale it back. The average ROI in my business has been 70% for a long time. So across the board, if you're looking at the costs and what the profitability from Amazon come back at. After that though, with the scale that we operate at, we've got additional expenses too. So the profitability starts to lower, but just the specific ROI per product, the average is 70% in our business.
And you talked about it then just a minute ago, like scaling, like how high can you scale this model? Like what's the limit? Like, let me ask the question, why are you not a billionaire right now?
Well, there's multiple reasons. I would say that how high can you scale the model? I've seen it go into over $200,000 per month for consistently for some sellers, and I know that there are some that probably do more than that may not ever talk to me. So I would say between 200,000 to 300,000 is the highest that I have seen per month in a Replens specific business. That does not mean it couldn't go more, and that also doesn't mean that everyone's going to get there. But from an arbitrage business, in terms of why am I not a billionaire yet? I don't know. I really have no idea. Things change. For us, we're capped in terms of scale. We could move warehouse operations. We chose to keep it at the operation level that we have it because we like the business that's operating for us. And then we can focus on other things like purchasing businesses, other investments, looking at doing things that we enjoy. So ultimately that for our business is what we've chosen to do.
No, I like it. I think, and also if anyone's watching, one of the common ones is like, okay, well, if this works, why are you not taking it to like 100 million, for example? That's quite a common question that we kind of hear. Like, I'm going to disprove it before I've even had a chance to test it, like a lot of people talk about. And the one thing I would just say to that, if anyone is thinking about this, is like, theoretically in your mind, taking something to like 1 million, 10 million, for example, the complexities change dramatically. And sometimes you just get to the point where you're like, actually, you know what? I'm quite all right. The profits are really good. The operation's really good. It works. And I know that if I want to take it to the next level, it's going to be another like year, 2 years of pain and growth and overcoming the scaling problems. And it's kind of like, until you get to the 1 million, the 10 million, the 100 million, the 1 billion, then have that conversation. But like, don't discredit a model until you've even tried getting to like 10,000. Like, and it's really interesting. So like, I do hear that quite a lot. So we'll just say it to anyone who's kind of watching now. So thank you for the pros. Tell me some of the cons. Like, it sounds rainbows. Tell me the negative side of it.
Yeah. So I would say that part of the reason with the whole scaling thing that you just mentioned, getting to, let's just say 1 million a month with Replens, is there are limitations with replenishables as a model. And that limitation is just that you are relying on other people's supply chain. You're relying on those stores to get product at a profitable price that then we can also profit from. So any fluctuations in their pricing without having a relationship with the distributor themselves can limit how much you can grow, because replenishables will still fall off eventually, much more so than if you had an exclusive wholesale account or your own private label product. Now, I'm no private label specialist, right? But there is still some extra stability that you have when you're succeeding with private label, that you're able to control a little bit more of the manufacturing and distribution and all these other things. So from a limitation for Replens, you're going to have some cons with the supply chain issues that can come up. And an additional limitation is that you don't control the brand, right? I mean, there's nothing that you can do in terms of, I shouldn't say nothing. It's going to be more difficult to sell a Replens arbitrage business than to sell a wholesale or private label business. That is absolutely absolutely a con. Then the third con that I would say is, as I mentioned earlier, it is also still kind of a grind. You have to go out and find a bunch of products. Typically, you're going inch deep and mile wide, meaning that you're testing 5 or 6 of an ASIN, but you're getting 100 other ASINs as well to test in your account. So you have more logistics to manage and some extra things that go into that. So there are definite cons to the model, but that's why I say that it's also the best place to start and to learn. And then most people, after they start getting, 20, 30,000 a month or over 100,000 a month, they also then start to look at other models that they can attach to the current one so that they can scale out into a more complex, but also legitimate in terms of business growth model. And I think that is the typical path, as people will get in, learn Amazon through Replens and arbitrage, and they'll scale it to a certain point, and then they'll say, you know what, let's try to get a wholesale account. And then that wholesale account goes well, and then they start adding more, and then they look at private label or branded bundles or whatever. Those would be some of the cons that to me kind of stick out for the Replens model.
Yeah, and I think the thing to kind of take away or to share is the fact that there is no perfect business model. They just don't exist, because there are always limiting factors. It might be like knowledge, it might be capital to start with. So this works at a really low capital allowance. And then once you build up a good capital allowance, like, now I have more money than I have the ability to Replens. So then I'm going to go into like maybe private label, maybe wholesale. And as your, limitations start changing, then you adapt the business model to adapt to what your needs are. So and again, I just think of people who are like, oh, but what happens if this? I'm like, you'll always find a problem if you want to, but the idea is get started and then solve the problems as you go, but make some money on the way. It's a really important thing. So
hey guys, I just want to take a quick moment out to say, if you're thinking about growing your business, or perhaps maybe even struggling to grow it and you just don't have enough time, well, a virtual assistant could be the answer that you're looking for. What we've done is I've put together a recording of how you can grow your business by 10,000 per month, also how you can do this in just 5 hours per week. And this is based off our own experience and what we've done with other customers. Now, if you're interested, have a look at the link down below in the description. This is going to be really simply virtual assistant 10,000 per month. And I'm just going to document and I'll talk you through the exact numbers and everything that you need to know in that recording. So check that out.
So thank you for sharing that. Are you happy? I'd love to, if you're happy to jump on a screen share, talk us through some kind of what do you look for in products? What do you see in keeper charts? How do you analyze them? If anyone wants to kind of get started on this, and maybe obviously later on we'll talk about your program, but is there any kind of insights you can share with us now?
Absolutely. So I've got 3 different products that I wanted to show, and one is much more national, right? You've got Nike. Then we've got a more regional sauce type product, which is something that I mentioned. And then we have something that's a little bit more niche, I would say. And so we can look at the 3 different options. Also, one of them is a variation, so we can also kind of evaluate the variation there. So this Nike shin guard, it's kind of a poor listing in the fact that there aren't other variations. So this may have been split out at some point from a different listing, but either way, we can look at the Keepa chart, and looking at 3 main things on Keepa, we can tell that this is selling and that it is fairly consistent with a price that is profitable. So from the sales rank itself, I want to make sure that there's enough lines going up and down showing that it is selling consistently. That is important. And then we look at the price to see if it's stable. It is less stable than I typically would like, but this is still something that we can see right now. It's at $36.99. I would say if I were to buy this and sell it at $25.90, this is the buy box here, that is a fairly safe price point that I would need to sell it at if the price were to drop again. So we'll check the profitability here in a second. And then the third thing I look at is this bottom box, which is the seller count. And that is something that I want to make sure is going up and down, which indicates more sales. If we were to look at a Keepa chart right here, and we were to see that the sellers were going up and the price was going down, then I would not purchase this product. So that is an important key piece of information to know, that we want to see sellers going up and down so we know that it's selling out. There's too much, or there's not enough supply for the demand of this particular product. Now, another thing, since this listing is not the best, there's no description, there's no bullet points. If we scroll down, we want to see if there's a size. So the size for this particular product is small. Since it's not on a variation, that's something to keep in mind. We do need to find the right size for this. So currently, the product is listed at $36.99. We're looking at this Keepa chart. That's at the high point right here. So we will want to see at $12 of a buy cost, which at Exporting Goods, $12 small is how much this costs. That leaves us with $14.99 of net profit. But my concern is this isn't a typical price point. So I want to see what it is at $25 and let's just say 90 cents. That seems to be fairly consistent. Well, at $25.90, the price goes down. Then we're at $5.56, which is still a 46% return on investment. So we're looking at over 40% ROI and over $5 profit. I would purchase this. I would list it at this high price. And if it fell down to this price again, totally fine with that return on investment. Any questions on that, Tom, before I go to the next?
No, I love that. And I love the fact that, like you just talked through the kind of three core things: price, sales, and, competition, supply and demand. I love that. The variation listing you talked about, I thought was great. And also as well, the fact that the price does fluctuate and you've checked it at both levels, which I think is great. And also you've looked at the profitability at the lower end, not the fingers crossed, we're going to make lots of money. Like, no, if it doesn't work out, what will it be? Question for you, just in case anyone doesn't know, what are the tools that you're using, if anyone's interested in getting them as well?
Yeah, so this is Keepa. So Keepa.com, you can get that. It's a Chrome extension. You have to have this to do replens or arbitrage well, in my opinion. So this is the only tool that you have to pay for. This one is also a paid tool that I pay for. You don't need it. There are free fee calculators out there, but this is called RevSeller. There's also another one called ASINZen or AZ Insight that I've used in the past that is also very good, that is paid. But again, there are free tools if you don't have the money to pay for this just yet, that I use for profitability checking.
Cool. I love it. Thank you. Carry on. Show
Awesome.
me. I'd love to see another one.
So this was example 1. Then example 2 would be here. This is just a different type of product. I wanted to look at more of a regional product. So you can see that this is a Memphis barbecue sauce by a brand name that most likely most people haven't heard of, I assume. I didn't know this one until I was just doing some quick research before this call to look for something new that we could talk about. And so this is Berman's barbecue sauce, Memphis, and it has 2. This is a 2-pack. So this is a typical replen where you will see a 2-pack. Again, notice in this listing that there's only 2 pictures. They're okay quality. They're not the best, but ultimately the pictures aren't going to be the best whenever you're looking for replenishable products. Usually it's listed at $23.95. This is going to be most likely a retail arbitrage product that you would find locally, because I couldn't find it anywhere online. However, I did find this on Instacart. So if you are local and you have the product shipped to you, or if you have a prep center near where this product is, you could have the product shipped to the prep center from Instacart, depending on your prep center, and it costs $3.65 per bottle. This is actually from Aldi in my area, and it's a product I'd never seen before. But at $3.65 times 2, that's $7.30. We're looking at a $4.53 net profit, or 62% ROI. Now, additionally, this is a variation, so we'll talk about that here in a second and how to analyze those quickly. I've done deep dives on my channel and whatnot before, but ultimately this is something that I wanted to show you. So here again, we're looking at the green sales rank line. It's going up and down. That looks great. However, since it's a variation, this can be the sales rank for the entire variation and all of the products in this one chart. So you can't really trust the sales rank line in this product because it's a variation. But you can trust the price, the buy box price. And you can see the buy box price is fairly stable and steady throughout the whole entire year. It sticks around the $20 to $22 price point, $24 price point. So that is fine. That passes that check. And then lastly is the number of sellers. Now, if you look at this, this is interesting, but it's still not concerning for me where the number of sellers drop and stay flat here. I don't know why that would have happened. It wasn't an immediate drop. It still went one by one. If it had been an immediate drop off, that is an indicator of IP issues or somebody filing a claim against you, but it did go kind of one by one. So something happened where it started to sell out, and then maybe they were out of stock or something and one person had it. I don't know. But the sellers have come back. They're starting to sell again. Now, since this is a variation, you will want to go to the variations tab on Keepa. And in this, you can see all the different variations. What's cool is these may all be replenishable products too. You can see the current buy box. This is the one we're looking at is $24, but this Carolina one is $26. This Kansas City one is $23, and this Texas one is $21.36. So those may also be profitable too. What I usually like to look for on the variation is the review count. All of them have reviews. And for that specific variation, that means that it's selling well enough. If the one we were looking at had 0, then I probably wouldn't buy it, because to me, that means it's not selling, but the other variations more than likely are the ones selling. This passes my check because it's selling based on the variations. The price is stable. The sellers are, going up and down for the most part. I would list this 2-pack at this $23.95 price point and make about 62% ROI on that.
Love it. And I like also, though, like you talked about it earlier on, you said about taking this to the next level. And the one thing that I kind of note, you mentioned it, the listing's pretty poor. It hasn't got a lot going on. The images aren't the best. But I did just notice in the title, it says gluten-free, lactose-free, which is interesting because obviously that could be a search term. So I'd be like, oh, interesting. Like this product's selling. Are there other gluten, lactose-free products that I could look at as well? The other one I'd be thinking about is perhaps maybe I could take this brand and try and go wholesale, or perhaps maybe I could look at creating my own brand, which is glucose and lactose free, because there's a whole market for these whereby other people are not selling, and the competition right now actually isn't very well optimized, and I could do a really good job and capture a high market or a high percentage of the market. So I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing too, if let's say you bought this, you could look on the back of the packaging and see who the distributor of it is, and sometimes it'll give you the contact information. And more than likely, I assume this is probably a co-packer or some sort of private label product that a brand just put their stuff on. It's my assumption, since it's being sold only at Aldi in my area anyway. So this may actually be something you could absolutely private label. So thank you for pointing that out, because I totally agree.
Thank you.
And another thing with replenishable products, you find something that's profitable, you want to continue then to search for Berman's barbecue or Berman's sauces and see what else is out there, because this one thing may actually have a 3-pack and a single pack and a Memphis and a Texas sauce on different listings, and you might take one product and turn it into 5 or 6 replens, even though it's the same exact product, because you have 5 or 6 different ASINs. And that's how it can scale. If this 2-pack was no longer profitable, I could recall inventory and sell it on a 3-pack or a single listing and still be okay, which is why it's so great for new sellers, in my opinion.
I love it. Thank you. And you got another one?
Yep, this is the last one. I wanted to show you one niche type product. So this is a burner for Firebox. It's very niche. You've got the model number and everything here. This is actually listed at $28.80, $13.16 to purchase it at one store, and you make $6.28 or 48% ROI. Now, with these type of things, you want to make sure that the part number is exactly correct. And I'll show you the Keepa chart real quick. Over the last year, it has sold. It's very slow though, so keep that in mind. However, in the summer months, it has sped up because this is something for a grill, right? It's a burner. Now, the price though has stayed fairly steady. The sellers have gone up, but they are currently going down. So this passes my Keepa check that ultimately fairly steady and sells decently well. Now, what's important to note here is there's actually one place at Charbroil that sells this for $10.99, but it's out of stock. So I wanted to see if there was another place that has it. And then another place was ereplacementparts.com. It has the exact same part number. And so they would be a wholesale site of these types of brands. You can see the part numbers there, and that's why it's $13.16. If you had gotten it at Charbroil, it would have been $10.99. So the ROIs would have been even better at the time, $8.45. So that is just one example of a niche type product that you could sell. So we looked at a Nike product, which is, nationally known brand. We looked at some more regional sauce type products for Berman's barbecue, and then looked at more of a niche product to kind of give you a flavor of the listings.
Yeah, I love it. And I love those niche products where it's what do you sell? And you're like, I don't really know what they are, but the graph looks good and it's work. Whereas like Nike, everyone kind of understands. So when you're talking to people who don't do Amazon, they get the Nike part. But when you're talking to other Amazon sellers or other competitors, they're like, I don't understand what this is. So they might not buy it. Whereas Nike, they're like, they get it. They just keep buying it and you have more competition. Mm-hmm. Do you see that? Is that something that you've seen in your history or not?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think the arbitrage sellers that come and go probably come into the system and they start to look for those popular products like Nike, Oreos, those types of things that are national brands and international brands. And then they may make 5 or 10% ROI. And then they just, say, this is unprofitable. Amazon doesn't work. It's too saturated, and they get out. But the people that succeed with these models will have a mixture of some of those big brands plus some of these weird things that have one picture that I don't even know, what this brand is or even fully what it does. I could figure it out, but ultimately, if it sells well, the Keepa looks good, that's all I care about. And so trying to have that mixture helps to keep your business safer on the marketplace.
No, I absolutely love it. I love it. Cool. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and obviously sharing through those. Like, it's really interesting to see not only the products, and you've given quite a variety there, but also as well like what you're looking at, the keeper charts and the considerations, and then even how to take it to like another level when we've grown that. So that's really good. Question for you: if anyone wants to find out more about what you are, what you're offering, and should we say even like the Replens system, what's the best way of doing it? How can they get in contact?
Yeah, so my website is askjimmysmith.com, and all of my social media. The one that I'm most active on is YouTube at Ask Jimmy Smith. I typically post twice a week on a bunch of different things, whether it's Replens or e-commerce or whatever. Also, I have a book. It's called Side Hustle to Full-Time Income, and it's been an Amazon bestseller. It's been out there for a couple years at this point, and it goes from 0 to 100,000 per month in retail and online arbitrage, and how to kind of build and scale that. So those would be the main places.
Absolutely love it. If anyone's interested, I will drop all the links down below, so obviously you can grab all that. Just have a look in the description and you'll see that as well. Jimmy, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. Thank you much for sharing, and obviously even preparing. My God, coming prepared. Absolutely love it. And obviously sharing everything today. So from myself and everyone watching, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure having you. And obviously guys, do check out obviously those links down below, and obviously give Jimmy some support as well. And I think this model has been going for years. So many people have seen success on it. Check it out and see if it's something that's going to work for you.
Thank you so much, Tom. I really appreciate you having me on here. It's excited to help in any way that I can. So feel free to ask questions, anybody in the comments, etc. Happy to help.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.